Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminolly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, all three of those, it's my October TBR. So you would expect an October TBR from a channel that talks a lot about horror fiction to be a very horror-focused TBR because, you know, after all, it is Halloween month, or spooky season, as people seem to like calling it on here. However, I've actually ended up with a list of books that isn't really that horror-focused. There's definitely some horror in here, as you would expect, but there's a load of other stuff too. And I'm kind of at that point now in the year, I think, where, you know, I did a few events earlier on in the year. So, you know, I did Horror Mayhem, I did June on the Range, of course I did Gulb August. So I've had a lot of months where I've been quite focused in my reading and reading, you know, primarily one type of book. So, you know, westerns, horror, trash. And then last month, in kind of a reaction to Gulb August, so in September, I read a lot more serious books. I read quite a lot of classics and some, you know, more difficult books. So, you know, I read some classic crime, you know, kind of Dashiell Hammett and Raymond Chandler. But I also read, you know, William Faulkner, Albert Camus, Moby Dick by Herman Melville. So, you know, I read some pretty difficult books. So I'm going to continue reading classics, as I've said in a previous video. But this month, I wanted to just mix things up a bit and read what I felt like. So I've come up with a TBR for the month. There are a few things that are definitely locked in because they're kind of buddy reads and things like that. I've agreed with people. I'm not taking part in any events this month. So I am doing some buddy reads, but I'm not taking part in Victober or any of the other events that are going on. And really, I want to have a month where I feel a bit freer to read what I want. So as I say, whilst I have got a TBR here, I may well vary from it. But I've picked out a ton of stuff that I'm really keen to read and quite excited to read. So yeah, we'll see how we get on with it. In this video, I'll just go through it all with you. So I'll do the Kindle books first so I don't forget them. So first up then is The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sagar. And I'm doing a buddy read of this with Shannon from Shannon's Bookish Musings and Music. So we were going to read this in September and we didn't manage to, so we bumped it back to October. So yeah, quite looking forward to this. I've only read one Riley Sagar book, The Final Girls, which I kind of hated, so I didn't really enjoy it at all. But equally, I felt compelled to keep reading it. And I do quite like that kind of thriller that just grips you, even though you know it's crap. So we'll see how I get on with The Last Time I Lied. I haven't got huge hopes for it, but yeah, we shall see. Next up, a reread for me, also on Kindle. So I'm going to be reading Cujo by Stephen King, which I haven't read for years. I don't even remember when I read it. I think I've only read it once, and it was, you know, probably when I was in my late teens or early 20s. So that's a buddy read with Gareth from Book Songs and Other Magic. So yeah, really looking forward to reading that again. It's been a while, I think, since I've read any Stephen King. So yeah, looking forward to that. And then for MJ at Reading This Life, for her book club, we are reading Lost Horizon by James Hilton, which I know nothing about. So it was MJ's dad's favourite book. I know nothing about it at all, but very much looking forward to reading it. So in terms of the classics then, so I will be reading the Iliad by Homer in my mission over the next year or so to read all of the books that Michael K. Vaughan listed in his 12 Classics You Must Read list. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I've read the Odyssey when I was at school, but I haven't read the Iliad. So yeah, we shall see how I get on with it. A little bit daunting, given that it is a 400-page long poem, but yeah, I'm going to give it a try. Okay, next up, another Kindle book, which is Patricia Wants to Cuddle by Samantha Allen, which was recommended by Eve on the channel Horror and Inconvenience, which is a fantastic channel if you're not a subscriber already. So yes, this is a kind of slightly comic, from what I can tell, Bigfoot book. About some people in it, like a reality TV show, who get attacked by a Bigfoot. And it just sounds like a hell of a lot of fun. As soon as I heard Eve talk about it, I bought it on my Kindle, and I'm very much looking forward to reading that. And then again, on the classics, my classics quest, if you like. So one of the books that Michael talked about in his video was The Complete Sherlock Holmes. So obviously maybe not obviously, but I don't want to read The Complete Sherlock Holmes in one go. And also, because I want to get this finished by August next year, I haven't actually got 12 months to do it in. So what I thought was I would read, one or more of the Holmes stories each month rather than reading them all in 1 month. So as well as reading the Iliad, I will be reading A Study in Scarlet by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, which I have read before some time ago and wasn't hugely impressed by, I have to say. So we'll see what I make of that. Another book which I'm hoping to get a physical copy of in the post, I think it is in transit from the US to the UK, is Dog Meat by Priscilla Bettis. So Priscilla, if you don't know, is a fantastically supportive kind of viewer and commenter, but also an author. She's got this new novella out, Dog Meat, and she asked me if I'd like to read a copy, take a copy in for review, and I jumped at the chance. Pax from Pax Panic has reviewed it already and said it was absolutely fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to that. I've got it on my Kindle. Hopefully the paper copy will arrive for me to read in October, but if not, I'll read it on my Kindle. And then another one, another horror novel that I want to pick up is Halloween Slaughter by Sergio Gomes. So I did a review of Camp Slaughter, which is the previous book in the series to this, a little while ago on the channel. Really, really enjoyed it. Halloween Slaughter comes out kind of mid-October, and the buzz around it already is fantastic. So I know a few people who've got hold of advanced copies of it and read it and really enjoyed it, so looking forward to that one. And then another one which I've had, so again horror, which I've had on my Kindle for a while, but haven't managed to get to, but it's only short, so I thought I'd try and fit it in October, is Hairspray and Switchblades by V. Castro. So I've reviewed a couple of books by V. Castro on the channel before. I reviewed Queen of the Cicadas by her and Miss Deeds of Blood, both of which I thought were fantastic. So really looking forward to reading Hairspray and Switchblades, and also at some point in October, I can't remember the date, her novel Vasquez comes out from Titan Books, which I'm really hoping I can get an advanced copy of. So I do get stuff from Titan occasionally, so hoping they will offer that to me. So Vasquez is based on the character of Vasquez from the film Aliens. Vasquez is my favourite character in Aliens. I know that V. Castro is a huge fan of Vasquez, so I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what she does in the book. So that's all the kind of Kindle stuff. Moving on to paper books then. Oh, I have one other book to talk about actually, which I don't have yet, which is, I've now lost it on my list, Inner City Hoodlum by Donald Goines. So Donald Goines is I'm not sure if he's still alive or not, but certainly was a very popular black crime writer who wrote a ton of I suppose kind of slightly trashy, kind of almost like blaxploitation movies, but books. Supposed to be really fantastic, so very much looking forward to that. I've ordered it from Amazon and it will be here kind of beginning of October. So yeah, looking forward to reading that one. Right, so let's get into the paper books then. And I would say I've got a lot on my TBR this month. I've got more books than I think I can get through, so I do not expect to get to all of these. But there are many I definitely want to read, and I do want to read all of them, if that makes sense. But we'll see if I manage to or not. So this is one that I was going to try and read in September and have failed to. So The Butcher by Laura Cat Young, which is a kind of historical horror novel, which sounds fantastic. Got some great notices. It comes out early October, so I'm going to try and get this read and do a review of it before it is published. Next up, more horror. So Shiver by Junji Ito, which was very kindly sent to me by Michelle from Michelle's Melancholia. So I've never read Junji Ito. Really need to. Thoroughly looking forward to this. It's manga, so I'm imagining it's not going to take me too long to read, but it is 400 pages, so yes, we shall see. But yeah, really, really looking forward to reading my first Junji Ito. I think I've been holding it the wrong way around. I get confused with these manga books. You have to hold them backwards. So there you go, fantastic cover. Okay, next up, I have slightly begrudgingly agreed to read a sports book. So one of my regular viewers and commenters, DDB, who is an Australian gentleman, as many Australian gentlemen are, is really into sport and is always telling me reminding me that I don't really read sports books. Although I did remember a sports book that I'd read earlier today and let him know in the comments, which was Born Fighter by Ruxana Begum, who is the world female, or was the world female Muay Thai champion. It's a fantastic book, really worth reading. Anyway, so he's been telling me I should read a sports book. So I said, okay, tell me a sports book to read and I'll read it. And he suggested Fever Pitch by Nick Hornby, which is a very well-respected book. I remember when it came out, I was one of my flatmates at the time was an Arsenal fan, and she absolutely raved about this book. And I do trust her taste in books, actually, so I think I will enjoy it. And again, not very long, but yes, I will be reading this in October, so I can talk about it with DDB. Also, so these are both books I've read, or omnibuses that I've read one of the books from in September. So I'll be reading the second book in the Elric of Melnimene volume by Michael Moorcock. That book is The Fortress of the Pearl, which actually was published later. So the rest of the books in this volume were published in the 70s. Fortress of the Pearl was published in 1989. But chronologically is the second book in the series, if that makes sense. So it's one I haven't read before. I've read many of the Elric books, but I haven't read that one. So looking forward to reading that. And I'm also going to continue with my reading of Raymond Chandler from this lovely Library of America volume. So I'm going to read the second Philip Marlowe novel, Farewell My Lovely, which I haven't read before. So really looking forward to that. I have a couple of books from booktubers here, which I have shown, I think, in various videos on the channel before, but haven't got around to reading yet. So I've got Hey Bert by Roberto Pastore from the channel Pastore Time. And now I'm wondering if it's Pastore or Pastore, his surname. Apologies, Bert, if I've been pronouncing your name wrong. So yeah, really looking forward to reading this. A book of poetry. I'm not normally a poetry fan, but Bert's a fantastic guy with a great sense of humour. So I'm imagining there will be a bit of humour and eccentricity in these poems, which are both things I really enjoy. So yeah, looking forward to that. And then this one, actually, Troy is not a booktuber. I misspoke. Someone I met through BookTube. So Troy, like DDB, is a very, very regular commenter on the channel, always has something interesting to say. He sent me this book, The Forsaken Boy, which he wrote a few years ago. Michael K. Vaughan read this a couple of months ago and said it was absolutely fantastic. So I do enjoy werewolf novels, which is what this is. So yeah, really looking forward to reading that. So next up, a couple more crime novels. So I've got A Rage in Harlem by Chester Himes, the first of the Harlem cycle. So I've read one of the later books in the series, but not this one. So I'm going to go back to the start and read them in order. I love the other book by Chester Himes I read, so I'm really looking forward to reading this. And then I've also got a Cuban crime novel, Havana Bay, by Leonardo Padura, which I picked up in a charity shop a little while ago. I've got slightly confused looking online as to whether this is the first book in the series or not, because it is from a series. Some people seem to say it's the first book, some don't, so I'm not sure. I suspect it's that the full series published in Cuba has a different number of books in it and a different starting book. I think this is the first one that was published in English, but it's supposed to be fantastic anyway, so yeah, looking forward to reading that. I've also got a book that was sent to me by the author a little while ago, Call to the Void by Robert Royal Poff, which is a collection of horror short stories. So yeah, really looking forward to reading this. I think it's fantastically presented, and some of the reviews I've seen online for it have been very good. So looking forward to diving into that as well. And then a return to what I kind of think of as the origins of the channel. So I haven't been in the last few months, because of all the events I've been involved in and things like that, I've neglected the 4 series that I've been reading, which I consider to be kind of mainstays of the channel, if you like. So those series are the Executioner series by Don Pendleton, the Gore series by John Norman, the Edge series by George G. Gilman, and the Survivalist series by Jerry Ahern. So I'm determined to read the next book from each of those series this month. So the books are Panic in Philly, which is the 15th book in the Mac Bolan Executioner series, as I said, by Don Pendleton. I've got this Corgi edition. I have to say, these later Corgi editions are much, much nicer kind of design-wise and cover-wise than the ones I've had so far. I think it's a really fantastic cover, and I love the kind of overall design of this book. So yeah, looking forward to that. I've got Marauders of Gore, which is the 9th book in the Chronicles of Counter-Earth, the Gore series by John Norman. A series of very dodgy fantasy novels, but they are quite fun. These, I don't like these Signet editions. I've said it before on the channel. They look like D&D modules, don't they, the covers? But yeah, looking forward to reading that anyway. I've got book 16 in the Edge series by George G. Gilman. So this is the final shot. So these are brutally violent westerns. This one's got an advert in it. It's got an advert for home insurance. That's exciting, isn't it? Seems completely out of place in a brutally violent 70s western. But anyway, what was I saying? I don't even know. I've been completely thrown by that home insurance advert. Anyway, I'm looking forward to reading this. And then finally, The Survivalist Book 8, The End is Coming by Jerry Ahern. So I am loving the Survivalist series. Definitely my favourite of all the series I'm reading at the moment. Just so much fun. Pure, cheesy 80s entertainment. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Like an idiot, I've just finished filming and realised that I completely missed out one book, and that book is the book that we are reading for my own book group, the Birth Year book group, this month. So that is Hell House by Richard Matheson. I'm really looking forward to this. I really like Richard Matheson. I think he's a fantastic author. I've loved everything I've read by him, and this is supposed to be quite weird and extreme, and it's a cool haunted house story. So yeah, really looking forward to this. So this was the Birth Year pick from Michael K. Vaughan, the great Michael K. Vaughan. So it was his Birth Year book from, I think it's 1971 it was originally published. This is quite a boring cover, I have to say. Some of the other people in the group who are reading it have got fantastically kind of cheesy 70s and 80s covers. This one is just kind of dull. But yeah, very much looking forward to reading the book. And if you'd like to get involved, if you'd like to read along with us, you can just do it and comment in the comments when I talk about this book. But also on my Discord, which there's a link to in the description for this video, we have a discussion channel where we will talk about all the books we're reading each month for the Birth Year book group, and in October, as I say, it will be Hell House. Okay, it's time for a random book from the shelves. So inspired by this Edge book that I've just shown you, I plucked out this one, Dead Sea Submarine by Alan Kalu. I may well be pronouncing that name completely wrong. So this, like the Edge books, was published by the New English Library, and it's got a very similar cover, hasn't it, in terms of like the kind of dirty brown orangey tones. So yeah, it's definitely got a similar feel. So this is about it's number one in the Colonel Tobin series. So I've not read any of these, and it's about a mission to the Sinai Desert during, I guess, the Second World War. So New English Library published loads of different series of kind of slightly trashy adventure books during the 70s, which I'm assuming is when this came out. Let's double check. Yeah, 1971. So yeah, really looking forward to reading this. This came in a box of books that I bought off eBay, which I featured at fairly early on in the life of the channel. There was this one book I wanted, which funnily enough was by George G. Gilman. And the cheapest way to buy it was to buy this box of like 50 thrillers off eBay. And this was one of them. I haven't read any of them yet. But yeah, looking forward to reading this at some point. As always, thanks very much for watching. Let me know if you've read any of the books I've talked about for October. Whilst I've been filming this, I've just remembered there's a couple of other book clubs that are run by Kelly from Kelly Hooked On Books that I have been taking part in over the last few months. So there's her VC Andrews reading group and her From Hell reading group, which reads kind of vintage horror. So I may well end up reading 2 more books for those as well, which might bump something else out because they've been really fun and we've had some very entertaining discussions. Anyway, let me know if you've read any of the books I've talked about. And as always, thanks very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well. Hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.